Hey, have you heard? Four-Legged Life has a new digital newsletter. Here, let me show you how you get yourself subscribed. So you just type in Four-Legged Life, and that'll take you to the website. There we go. And this magic thing just appears, and you type in your email address. I'll use, let's see, how about coolestdogever@gmail.com. That's me. And then you just click on this thing here. There you go. It's the new digital newsletter from Four-Legged Life. Get subscribed today.
Our special guest today is Scott Schaefer. Gosh, he's just, God, I'm going to sound really old. He's a walking encyclopedia of knowledge. But I think he's more of a Google guy. He's a Google guy with lots of information. And we've been talking a little bit about dog aggression, but there's a lot of listeners out there that have sweetie pies that they adopted, especially during COVID. And they have dogs that have the case of separation anxiety. In fact, I did some homework, and it is this disorder, because it is a disorder, impacts about 20% or 1 in 5 dogs. So this hyper attachment, it's like a physiological response. Can you kind of dive in about how would you define separation anxiety in dogs?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I think your numbers are pretty accurate there at 20%. And in rescue dogs, even higher. Yeah. And especially rescue dogs that have been returned a few times. And you and I know, Arden, that's just apocalyptic when dogs have to be returned for lots of reasons for the dog. But one of the questions I get, it's a kind of a diagnostic thing. People come in and see me for their dog with separation anxiety. And a lot of times, and this is going back to FTDs, first-time dog owners that we talked about earlier, they misdiagnose it. They think my dog is sad when I leave. My dog cries a little bit as I'm walking out the door. My dog doesn't want to go in its crate, but doesn't like going crate when I'm leaving. And these are just things, these are just indicators your dog really loves you and doesn't want you to leave. Okay. And that's really all it is. And sometimes people will say, well, my dog follows me around all the time. We call that Velcro dogs. That's a common term. And one thing that we've learned in the business and I have observed is that's not a reliable indicator of separation anxiety. Dogs can follow you around right on your heels all day long and be just fine when you leave. And then vice versa. You'll have dogs that don't do that at all. And in fact, you have separation anxiety. So let's talk about what separation anxiety actually looks like. What are some of the presenting?
I appreciate that. Yes.
So dogs will do any kind of combination of these things. One is they will kind of the first thing I ask is where do you put your dog when you leave? Is it in a crate or free in the household?
Okay, good.
And typically, dogs with true separation anxiety do not like to be put in the crate. We call it secondary confinement. They don't love it too much. So that would be, well, my dog is fine going in the crate when I'm home, but if I'm leaving, really puts up a fuss. The second thing in relation to crates that I ask is the dog damaging the crate? And a dog with moderate to severe separation anxiety, the answer is pretty much always yes. And it is amazing the crates that these dogs can get out of. They pull the doors in, they become massively strong.
They can hurt their teeth and their paws.
Yes, yeah. The wire on the crate is bent. You're right. They quarter dig and they damage their paws. They will damage their nose. So these are all indicators of more really significant separation anxiety, more than just I miss you. The other one, the first indicator that I really look for is, does the dog damage anything when you're gone? Specifically, your exit point. Like, where do you leave?
Okay. Yeah, like the front door? Okay.
Yeah, we leave the front door, we leave the back door. And is the carpeting messed up there? Is the door scratched, et cetera, et cetera? Yes, I've had to replace it 3 times. Okay, well, that's a good indicator. Because you have to understand that dogs don't understand our leaving. They don't know that you got in your car and drove 20 miles. They think you're just 10 feet on the other side of the door. So that was the last place they saw you. So if I could just get through this door, everything would be fine. It's really sad when you think about it, but that's the truth. Another thing you see in separation anxiety, and I could go on and on. Tell me.
Oh, you're doing great. And okay. I want to throw one in with the crate. Konak came from the Rancho Costa Humane Society, shout out, in California. But that was her second shelter. She was about a year and a half old. She's my 35-pound terrier mix that teaches pet first aid with me. Her separation anxiety was she sweat through her paw pads so much and drooled, wasn't urinating in the thing, in the carrier. And she could not, it's like that song, Don't Fence Me In. And went through a lot of training and all, but I cannot put Kona in a carrier because she will shut down.
And that's that secondary confinement. And I love that you mentioned that. That's another thing I asked about the crate on a diagnostic thing. Is the front of the crate wet? So that would be stress drooling. And the other one is a lot of people don't know this. Just like humans, when dogs get nervous, they sweat on their paws. In fact, sometimes I'll just grab a dog's paw and you can really get a feel for their anxiety level. And I bet you use that some of your first aid, just hang on their paws and see what's happening there. But yeah, the other one is, do they defecate and urinate in the house? And that doesn't look like house training defecation, urination. That would be lots of little feces and lots of little urine markings. So they're just having trouble holding their bladder and their.
Well, is it also making them smell themselves? So it's like a security blanket. I mean, sometimes I've heard, I don't know. That's the question. Sometimes people get mad, but the poop smells like them, and it kind of until mom and dad get home. I don't know.
I haven't really ever heard of that before, but dogs do some, as you know, self-soothing behaviors, compulsive behaviors like chasing tail, licking their paws, that kind of thing.
Okay. I just like to talk about pee and poop. Sorry. Okay.
I noticed that. Well, those would be some of the major signs that we look for if the dog has separation anxiety.
So sometimes, how does that differ than boredom? Separation anxiety versus boredom. Dogs home alone.
Yes.
And so tell us if there's any.
That's really great.
Okay.
And when you're diagnosing separation anxiety, you have to ask so many questions because there's so many nuanced things. Yes, boredom, and that's a lot of times, that's what it is too. The dog is just bored. Mm-hmm. One of the key ways you'll know is what I call the departure ritual. When a dog that really has moderate to severe separation anxiety, when the owner gets their purse, their wallet, their shoes, their cane, their umbrella, whatever their normal leaving routine is, the dog has back-chained that. The dog's not stupid. And the dog goes, okay, I know what this means. They're going to be leaving in a minute. Okay. And so I am really sad and stressed and anxious about this right now. And they start acting that way. A dog who is bored won't do those kinds of things. It's not,
good.
It's not that anticipatory anxiety kind of thing.
Oh, that's a good phrase.
Yeah.
Okay, let's tackle separation anxiety. Scott, what are some do's and don'ts when a person is getting ready to leave that could lower that anxiousness or unintentionally spike it?
Great question. And I do have a couple of quick tips that I give all dog owners. In fact, I do these two things with my two dogs, Charlie and Lou.
Luke and Charlie!
Yeah, to prevent them from getting separation anxiety. I do it as a preventive type measure, okay? And it certainly works if you have kind of mild separation. It's not real severe yet. Mm-hmm. I tell them to do a couple of things. One is, when you leave, just leave. In fact, 20 minutes before you leave, withdraw all attention to your dog. And then just slip out the door. And why is that? Because when you're there, they're getting all your attention. And when you walk out the door, it goes from 100% to what? 0%. That's falling off a cliff. So why don't we just 20 minutes before, let's just withdraw all of our attention. They're still seeing us. So we just kind of slope it down. That helps a little bit.